We spent this time volunteering because we had nowhere else to go. We had nothing else to do. And my husband doesn't sit, so he decided he'd go and start volunteering. And then out of it, he got an opportunity to do a leadership course, and on the leadership course is when he then had the idea to have a meal for asylum seekers and refugees. By this time, we discovered we were similar to asylum seekers and refugees because we weren't allowed to work. We had no recourse to public funds. We had no money. And so in that time, the only thing we could do is just do something. And typically, Michael went out, started volunteering. But one of the things he got asked in this leadership program was to do a project. So you're supposed to do a project or something that you're passionate about. So he made a meal for asylum seekers. And that meal evolved into a monthly meal. And we would meet other people. It wasn't just asylum seekers, it was both different backgrounds, just meeting up to have a conversation for each other. And then 5 years on, fast forward, 2012, we got our leave to remain, and we're thinking, yeah, we've now got, we can work. It's going to be great. And no, nobody wanted to employ us because we had that 5-year gap. And so we were considered to have no skills, nothing, we were not really welcomed in the workplace. Our only option was really to set up a company. And so we set up Radiant and Brighter, but our thoughts were, we'd learned about immigration. We'd learned, believe it or not, in all that time I'd been in this country, I'd lived here 10 years by the time we got the difficult circumstances, just about 10. And by the time we came through, it was another 5 years. But it was in those 5 years that I learned about asylum situations, about other immigration situations, because it had never been our experience, so we didn't really know. So armed with the skills that we had and the knowledge that we had, by this time we discovered that a lot of people knew of asylum seekers as migrants, but didn't really know some things. Yeah. And so we decided we were going to set up an organization. Particularly also, we were trying to find support in the structures and systems. But everywhere we went to, every charity said to us at that time that they could not support us because we did not have a letter that said we were destitute or something like that.
And I suppose, we were needed in the first instance because I could see as a landlord that the private rented sector wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. There's over 500,000 people in Scotland that live in privately rented homes. And as a landlord, I wasn't happy with the service I was getting from letting agents, but I could also see that people in sort of limited choice and people in low incomes and people that were maybe struggling to access housing were getting a particularly raw deal in the private rented sector. And I suppose I decided that was one, something I wanted to change, two, I could see a business opportunity, and three, there was also a viable business model from the outset. So all of those ingredients suggested that I should just have a go, really.
A couple of weeks into the crisis when folk were, so there's sort of between 200 and 300 people been housed in hotels across Edinburgh and Glasgow. And it's a mixture of people that might otherwise have been rough sleeping or staying within the night shelters, as well as a sizable number of people with no recourse to public funds. So have been accommodated. So I guess there's just an immediate opportunity really to ensure that those people don't return to rough sleeping basically. Yeah. And I think, in terms of the folk that can access accommodation, then it's just making sure that that happens, and particularly with respect to people with the highest support needs. Yeah. It's an ideal opportunity to try and get a reasonable number of people into the Housing First programme. So it's just not missing that opportunity, because one of the things that's been interesting about the group is you've got people accommodated that aren't normally accommodated, so have been, you know, really cycling around rough sleeping or being in the shelters, or temporary accommodation, and actually they're in one place for a few weeks at a time, and that's like quite a rare occurrence. So there's like interesting stories around how for the first time they've actually, certain individuals have been able to access healthcare like for the first time in however long, and it's like, wow, you know, it shouldn't take this for that to happen. But I think because they've been able to access some services within like the hotel complex, that's great at building the trust with individuals that can hopefully then translate to them getting permanent accommodation and ongoing support, and that would be a really brilliant result.
The reality is that we're probably stockpiling a tsunami of like social issues that are going to hit us over the course of the next 6 months, years ahead. Actually, I mean, I seen yesterday universal credit applications have increased 5-6-fold. For some people who've been, that 20% might be the tipping point between on one side of the fence of like living in poverty versus the other side of the fence. So all of these unknowns that exist right now, at the back end of this, organisations like ourselves are going to be needed more than ever. And I think it'd be naive of us to think, Kieran, that no, we're just going to turn on a switch and we'll go back to like what the previous commercial income stream levels were. It's not going to be as simple as that. So we're just going to have to continue to work with people like CIS and other partners to ensure that we ride this out. But I'm confident we will ride out.
And we have 196,000 who are eligible for free school meals, and therefore 204,000 are not receiving government vouchers. They're not receiving any additional support from their schools, or potentially not. Most of them won't be. And these are the children that we are particularly worried about. We're also worried about children who are coming into this situation, parents having lost jobs, parents having reduced incomes, who are starting to experience food insecurity where they haven't before. So we realized that we were in a really great position to respond to this. We have started running an emergency response. Well, we started running an emergency response within a week of schools closing in 30 locations across London, where we are funding and supporting community groups to produce meals, to distribute pre-prepared meals, hampers for families, activity packs that include art supplies and books, but also well-being support, so checking in with families, chatting to kids, checking in online, making sure kids are doing okay emotionally, and they've done a really incredible job, and we are supporting and serving thousands of children every week. What we're seeing, we've surveyed some of our families, we've talked to our hub leaders, we're trying to get a really good picture of what's happening on the ground. Of course, because of the travel restrictions, we haven't been able to do a lot of visits. We haven't ourselves been able to be on site as much as we'd like. And so we're talking to our hub leaders to really understand what's happening and talking to our families. What we're seeing is families saying that their incomes have been reduced, but also that they are experiencing supply issues, so they're not able to buy what they need in the local shops. Prices of food are rising, so where they may have been able to afford things previously, they're now finding that their budgets are being squeezed for food, and that even the simple things are taking more of their income. You know, you only have to look online at various different supermarkets that are online to see that a lot of offers have been taken off. You know, the supermarkets are really utilizing this opportunity to make money. So where you would have gone on and seen 2-for-1s or half price deals, there are not very many of them around. So we're a lot of the families that we work with are bargain shoppers in that regard. You know, they go out to the shop and they buy everything that's on sale and on offer. So certainly food prices, we're seeing a rise in those, and families are telling us, you know, before we were just about managing, but now we're being really, really pushed. On top of that, we've had around 30% of families suggesting that they've got a decrease in their household income. And we know that there are 900 additional children in one borough. In the borough that we're based as a charity, there are 900 children who've just moved into being eligible for free school meals in the last few weeks. So the total number was 6,500. It's now 7,400.